Let's turn now to Adamawa State, where the poor education system there is reportedly taking a new leap. And this is happening in just 5 years into the administration of Governor Amadu Fintiri. Before now, Adamawa was at the bottom in the West African Senior School Certificate and National Examinations Council performances. But the story is now different, as the state sits at the second position nationally and first in the Northeast region. Primary and secondary school education is free, with the state government taking responsibilities for WASC and NECO fees.
We are reviewed and harmonized education policy, where at the moment you can have a one-stop shop as far as policy is concerned in terms of education. This has been able to domesticate all the national policies that are related to the sector.
One landmark project which we embarked on, which we started in 2024, is the construction of 42-kilometer road from orientation camp in Gire local government, passing through Lambodo to Borong in Diamsal local government. In pursuit of excellence, the Adamawa state government has prioritized modernization of judicial infrastructure, renovation and upgrading efforts at High Court complexes A and B are near completion.
Upgrade and expansion was also carried out in the following hospitals: Numan General Hospital, we have a female surgical ward, pediatric ward, theater complex, laboratory complex, and mortuary.
Let's now talk to Chief of Staff to Governor Amadu Fintiri, Dr. Edgar Amos. Thank you for joining us on the news this hour. Let's begin with education. 2.4 billion naira we heard was what government spent to pay for WAEC and NECO exams earlier this year. How are you measuring growth in the education sector, and what is this administration's goal in this regard?
Thank you very much. Let me say that the philosophy that underpins the administration of Amadu Umaru Fintiri is accountability, transparency, and prudence in management of public resources. And it's also the belief of the administration that education is the fastest and surest way of the development of any society. And so whatever investments made in education is investment in the right direction. And when he came into office, Fintiri believed that there are two basic challenges in the education sector: access to education and quality. And some of the challenges are that parents are poor, they are unable to pay for school fees, to pay for examination fees, and so on and so forth. So as a deliberate policy, government thought to lift the burden of parents in terms of paying for those examinations, as well as providing incentives like school feeding and so on and so forth. How do we measure progress? We measure it, for example, in the performance at those examinations. And between 2019, when Amadu Umaru Fintiri came into office, and now, the examples and the performance has been quite tremendous. And clearly, unlike when you invest in education, it takes a very long time before you see the fruits. We are beginning to see the fruits already. And so we think that education is the surest way for development, for lifting people out of poverty, and for determining the direction, the pace, and extent of development of a state. So we think that investment in education is investment in the right direction.
Dr. Amos, how are you reacting to critics who say Governor Fintiri's administration, that is, development stride has only focused on the state capital, neglecting the rural communities?
Well, at least they're acknowledging that the state capital is being developed. If people who had ruled before had developed the state capital, we wouldn't be talking about the state capital anymore. At any rate, the state capital belongs to everybody in the state. Every region, every local government, every ward is represented in the state capital. And you have reason to come to the state capital for one reason or the other. So if you develop infrastructure in the state capital, everybody benefits. But beyond that, I boldly state, like you have seen in the ministerial press briefing, that there are tremendous projects going on in the rural areas, in the local governments. And in the hinterlands, there is no local government where there is no at least one cottage hospital. Some have more than one cottage hospital or the other. So all the local governments have at least a secondary healthcare facility, if not a primary healthcare, a tertiary health facility. Of course, primary healthcare centers are all across the state. And so you find the same thing in all the local governments. Model secondary schools, primary schools are being constructed. In all the local governments, there are road projects, rural roads, like the Commissioner of Rural Infrastructure had clearly highlighted. So criticisms are natural. When you are in government, you should expect criticisms naturally. Some are born out of ignorance, some are born out of mischief, some are genuine ignorance, which if you are able to elucidate, they should be able to accept that, yes, what you are saying is the reality. But the criticisms are not founded, are not on good ground, because there are tremendous projects in rural areas going on in Adamawa State.
Quickly, let's talk about illegal mining, because Governor Fintiri did say he's not going to fold his hand and watch Adamawa become a haven for illegal mining and pervasive insecurity. Precisely, what is his administration doing in the wake of reported mining site collapse that killed some people?
Let me begin by placing the discussion in proper perspective by saying that of all Fintiri's policies and programs, the topmost priority has been the provision of security of lives and property. You know, some parts of the state had suffered insurgency, Boko Haram, and so on and so forth. There are places where there are harder farmer conflicts and some communal clashes. And so the priority attention Fintiri gave to any sector is in the security sector. Empowered the security forces, deliberately ensured that anything that happens, he is there physically, takes measures to, as it were, resolve communal conflicts before they become something else. And we've discovered, at any rate, we have learned what has happened in the northwest, in Zamfara and other places, in relation to mining. And we've learned our lessons. So the governor said he will not allow what is going on in Zamfara and other states in the south, in the northwest, to replicate itself in Adamawa State. And so if there's going to be mining, it has to be properly controlled, properly checked, and properly monitored. Otherwise, illegal mining should not be allowed, because it's a recipe for crisis and for insecurity, just like we have seen in the northwestern states.
Dr. Edgar Amos is the Chief of Staff to Governor Ahmadu Fintiri. Thank you so much for talking to us on the news this hour.
Thanks for having me.
Let's turn now to Niger.